Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Tiny Learn Hub and welcome back to SQL Interview Lab. So I am glad that you are here. In our last few episodes, we have learned in our very different type of joins like inner join, left join, right join, full outer join. Today we are going to learn something that often surprise the beginners. So what if the information you need is stored in the same table? Like imagine you are working for a company with hundred or even thousands of employees. Every employee has a manager, but there is an interesting part is also there. Like managers are employees too. So instead of creating two separate tables, one for employee and another for managers, we simply stored everything in single employees table. Now the question becomes like how can SQL connect one employee to another employee in the same table? So that's exactly what we will learn today using self join. By the end of this lesson, you will know what is self join is, why aliases are required, and how employees manager relationships are work in the same table and real world use cases and common interview question on basis of this join. And finally, I'll give you the challenge to practice on your own. So let's jump into that lecture. Okay. So now here in the beginning, I want to show you one hierarchy. Okay. So suppose John is the CEO and there are two managers are there, Alice and Bob, and under those two there are four employees are there. Each of them have two employees under them. So this is a simple hierarchy. Every real time organizations are following right now. So, in basis of that, before writing any kind of script, so let's understand the problem visually. Like this diagram represents one company's reporting hierarchy. Okay, so John is the CEO, Alice and Bob report directly to John, David, Emma reports to Alice, and nothing there is nothing, very similar in here. It is very interesting thing that John appears in the two different roles. Okay, so he is an employee, but he is also a manager. Now, Alice is also an employee, and at the same time, she is the manager of David and Emma. Okay, so now, so every manager is actually another employee. So that's why we don't need a separate manager table. Instead, SQL using a self-join concept to connect the employees with other employees inside the same table. Now, uh, let's show you the first query. That is our employees table. Let me run this table, run this query to show you the table. Okay. So here what's our employees table looks like. Okay. So let's understand each column carefully. Now employee ID uniquely identifies every employee. Okay. Employee name stores the employee's name and manager ID stores the employee ID of that employee's manager. Okay. For example, Alice has manager ID 1, so employee ID 1 belongs to John. Okay. Now, therefore, John is Alice's manager. David has manager ID 2. So, employee ID 2 belongs to Alice. Therefore, Alice manages David and John has a null manager ID because nobody manages the CEO. So, this is very common database design used in HR system. Now, I have one question to you guys like can SQL automatically tell us that David's manager is Alice? Think about it. It's not directly, it can say that. So SQL needs us to tell it how these rows are related. That's exactly what cell join does. Okay, so now Uh, let's first retrieve all the records, okay? This helps us to verify our data before writing any kind of join, okay? Whenever you are working on SQL, so it's always a good practice to inspect the table first. So this simple habit can save you a lot of debugging time. Now, let's come to the second query. This is the one. So in here now, this is the heart of our today's lesson. Okay. At first glance, this query might look confusing. After all, why are we writing the employee table twice? Because this answer is like SQL treats each alias as a separate copy of same table. Here, E represents the employee and M represents the manager. Think of it like this way. Now imagine you printed two copies of employees table. Okay, no one copy your you wrote the employees only. Okay, so on the other copy, you wrote the managers. So the data is exactly the same, only the labels are different. So that's essentially that what SQL is doing behind the scene. So now here I can show you like this way. Suppose on the condition is very important part is here. So suppose we are matching employees table, we are here. So in the employees table, employee dot manager ID, we are matching this employee dot manager ID with manager dot employee ID. In other word, so find the employees whose employee ID matches another employee's manager ID. That's how SQL discovers who reports to whom. I'm repeating once again. In another word, I need to find out which employee whose employee ID matches another employee's manager ID. Okay, so this is the same thing. You need to understand this thing. Now, I need to know, I'm going to the second query and running this one. Now, this is the result. Now, let's read this first row together, okay? Alice reports to John. The second row tells us Bob reports to John. Okay, David reports to Alice and Emma reports to Alice. SQL didn't magically know this relationship. It found out that because on the on condition. This is the condition we are getting from this one. Okay, the values we are getting on basis of this on condition. Now, in a real world example, cell join is used much more often people realize. Okay, here are some real world example like human resource system is it is in this system use it to display the employee manager relationship. Universities use it to connect students with mentors and product catalog use self-join to build category and subcategory structure. Now social networking applications use similar relationship for referral systems and organizational charts, family trees, and company hierarchy all rely on this same concept. Once you understand the cell join, you will start recognizing it, everywhere. Now, let's come to the third query. So earlier we used the inner join. Okay, notice that John didn't appear in the result. Why? Because John doesn't have a manager. Inner join only returns the matching rows. Let's swipe to the left join. So this tells us SQL to return every employee even if a manager doesn't exist. So now John appears, but this manager column contains null value. So this exactly how it's going to work. So let me run this one and now it is come as a null value. Okay. Now let's come to the fourth query. So here's is a practical report. Like we only want employees who don't have managers. Okay. So in our company, that is just John. So HR team often use the reports like this to identify top level executives or department heads. Let me execute this query for you. Yeah, so this is the one. Now, in our fifth query, instead of showing the null, it's replace it with something more meaningful. Okay, so null value, it's showing us null value because we didn't give it any kind of proper message to display during the time of when we run the query. So now we are giving one particular message. When we run the query, it shows us like that message. So instead of showing null value, let's replace it with something more meaningful, like the clauses function. It returns the first non-null value. So whenever the manager is missing, so SQL displays no null. This makes reports much easier for business users. Now let me execute this one. Yeah, see, there is no manager. So it is easily identifiable for everyone. So for the viewers or whoever is using, which developer is using this query after you use it. So it will be easy for them as well to understand what this query actually means. Okay. So now let's come to the interview corner. So here comes like um, what is self join? If an interviewer asks you, like, what is self join? A self join is a regular join where a table is joined with itself using aliases. And another question it comes from here, like, why are aliases mandatory in self join? Because SQL needs a way to distinguish one instance of a table from another. So without aliases, SQL wouldn't know which employee name or employee ID you are referring to. So that's why aliases is needed. Now, some beginners often make this common mistake like forgetting to use table aliases or joining employee ID to employee ID instead of manager ID to employee ID. Using inner join when they actually need left join, and assuming self join is a different type of join, it isn't. It's simply a join where the same table appears twice. Now, I have one practice challenge for you guys. So, create a table, employee table, with employee ID, employee name, and manager ID. Write a query that displays each employee alongside their manager's name, and when the modify query to run only employees who don't have a manager. Pause the video and give it a try. I will post the solution in the pinned comment. Now, congratulations, you have just learned one of the most practical SQL concept today. So we have covered like the what is SQL, what is self join is, and why aliases are essential, how to build employee manager reports, when to use inner join versus left join versus self join, and how clauses improve the report readability, and the real world examples and interview questions as well. If you found this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Share it with someone preparing for SQL interview. In our next episode, we'll explore cross join, which every row for one table is combined with every row from another. So it's a simple concept with powerful real world application, especially in generating combinations and product catalogs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, bye.